Awesome. Thank you so much, Yulitsa. We're always grateful for your leadership. We just wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Shiv. I'm one of the co-directors of development on the campus-wide executive board. I'm a current junior at UNC Chapel Hill, majoring in neuroscience. I'm super excited that you're all here to join us, and Anisha and I were really glad to help organize this. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Anisha to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Anisha. I'm the other co-director. I am a junior as well, and I'm studying business with a minor in computer science. And just echoing what Shiv said, very excited to share this all with you today and just let you guys know what we've been up to so far.
Awesome. So, just to get things kicked off with this town hall, the theme of this town hall is kind of just like a recap of how 2020 went in the campus Y. And obviously, with the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. So, we really wanted to let you all know how the campus Y executive board has adapted to COVID-19 and how we've still been able to function as an organization. Thankfully, we've been able to do a lot of things virtually, and I'm really proud of how the executive board has been able to carry a lot of initiatives out. We're just going to talk about some examples of things we've been able to do in the last year. So one example is we've held Hear and Heal sessions. So I think the transition for a lot of first year students to UNC has been really difficult. Obviously, coming to campus and then being kicked off campus, and a lot of students who, may not have been on campus at all, international students, students who live far away, it's been really difficult for them to adjust to campus life. So the executive board has held some sessions to open it up for first years to come and ask any questions about campus life, and just to hold a safe space for any student to be able to, talk about any struggles that they're going through. We've also held a workshop series as well that's been targeted for first generation students who may not have the resources to succeed virtually. And that's been going on this semester, and we've had a great turnout with that. Our co-directors of outreach have also held a Silent Sam screening in which they screened a film surrounding Silent Sam, and over 100 attendees ended up coming to that, which is really, really great. And I'm going to pass it off to Anisha to talk about a few more initiatives that we've been able to do during this pandemic.
Thanks. So, our co directors of outreach also compiled a disorientation guide, and essentially that was just a compilation of prose, artwork, and really any form of expression that they were accepting from UNC students that would be presented at admitted student days, orientation, and official tours. And then our communication directors, they initiated Takeover Tuesdays, and that was just an opportunity for committees in the campus wide to really connect with other students at UNC and really just show what they've been working on and what they're doing. And then our co-directors of cabinet recently held domestic orientation, and that was an event that was held for the entire campus to attend. And now I'm going to pass it on to Abigail to talk about her experience at the Campus Y and also in the Bonner Leaders Program.
Hey, my name's Abby. I'm a junior. I double major in history and human development and family studies, and I minor in medieval and early modern studies. So like I said, I'm a junior. I've been at the Campus Y as a Bonner leader since I was a freshman, and I will say that this shift, like this last year, has been really weird. Just not being in the physical space of the Y. For those of you not familiar with the Bonner program, basically you're hired as a freshman and then you're paired with a nonprofit organization around Chapel Hill, Carborough, and you work with them for the next few years. But also you do a lot with the Bonner program. Inside the Y, we have you know, Monday night meetings every Monday night from 6 to 8. We have just other things in the Y, domestic orientation, stuff like that. That Bonners go to, and plus like not being able to go to the Y to like just hang out and study with other people has been really hard. That's what I miss most is just being in the physical presence of the Y and like all my fellow Bonners and everything. But the campus Y has stayed like really connected since the shift. I think the Bonner program in particular has done like really good keeping us connected. We have our Monday night meetings virtually on Zoom. Um, but yeah, of course it's gonna be weird not being there and not being with each other. So that's like what I'm looking forward to the most. But with my own personal work with Bonners, I am paired with VFY in Carborough, Volunteers for Youth. And there I run a girls group program. And basically we would go every week on Wednesdays ish to Smith Middle School in Carborough, and we'd have, weekly meetings in their lunch hour, and it's basically just about being women of color in a primarily white institution in like one of the biggest achievement gaps in the nation. And then we do a lot about allyship, feminism, stuff like that. So it's really it's been weird too having to shift that online, but I think there's been a lot of success with it. I was able to get groups in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade instead of just seventh grade. So I've actually like kind of expanded group this year, even in the pandemic. But right now we are taking a break as they transition back into in-person school. So I haven't been meeting with them. I didn't meet with them this week. I think it'll be 2 or 3 more weeks before I meet with them again. But yeah, that's just my experience since in the past year with the Y and my Bonner work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby, for sharing your experience. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to another Bonner leader, Joshua Green, who's also going to share his experiences.
Hey, how you all doing? I'm Joshua Green, and I'm a sophomore, and I've been working with the Bonner too uh, since my freshman year. And I'll say, yeah, I think no, actually, I know that the Campus was the like most integral part in me kind of coming into Carolina and finding my space because it's a really big school, and when I was in high school, there was only 200 people I think in my graduating class. So it was kind of definitely a big adjustment, and I think it definitely helped me kind of find the direction that I wanted to go in as far as impacting the community, because I always knew like I always wanted to do something in the community, but I mean that's pretty broad and there's so many things you could do, and there's so many things you have to learn before you can help within the community. So Campus Y definitely helped me learn like a lot of information that I didn't know about before. So I am a tutor currently right now, a Reach tutor for Scale, and you could be either a Reach tutor or a math tutor, but I was kind of, I did math before and I was just like, I don't know, it's not really me all the time. So I decided to do reading, and we teach reading with children in K through eighth grade after school. And it's pretty interesting because we don't just teach them reading skills, it's reading through a social justice lens. So you can kind of look at, where they are in the world and how they fit in the world and different issues that they may come by or have already came by. And we could kind of like connect those two paths together. So that's why I thought it was a really interesting position. And I don't know, I'll say that during COVID-19, it's been a lot different because you can't actually, spend time with the children. And that's probably like the funnest part when you can like spend time with them and they tell you about their day and what they did at school. And, they run over to the side and start playing the piano. And so, that was usually the fun part of the day. But, and doing it online, it's a little bit harder to pay attention to the lessons sometimes. Or, sometimes you don't always want to be on the computer all day. So that was definitely an adjustment. But I think once we started like adjusting the lesson plans and focusing on different activities and trying to keep them active still, it was we were able to, I think, make that transition. And since it's been a year now, it's been a little bit easier, a little bit more manageable. And yeah, I would say that's basically about it because, oh, and I'll also say as far as my major, personally, I used to be a biology major, but I switched over to public policy and political science, and that was mostly because the Campus Y and me learning about different opportunities within the community to help that wasn't just in the health field, because I always thought like, help the community, be a doctor, a lawyer. That's like the only jobs you really think about as a kid. if unless like your parents work at a different job. So with the Campus Y, I was able to hone in on what exactly I wanted to do and how I wanted to impact the community. And so, it's made, college a little bit easier and made my after college plan seem a little clearer. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joshua. And now I'm going to pass it to a first year Joey, who's going to talk a little bit about his experience and finding the Campus Y as a space in his first year at UNC.
Hello, my name is Joey, and I'm undecided currently, but considering majoring in media and journalism and possibly business. And yeah, so my experience going into the Y via the Bonner program and the development committee has been compromised a little bit by the pandemic. So I came in with all virtual classes, as everyone knows, and everything being online and on Zoom. And when everyone went home in the fall, I wound up staying. So I was very isolated, and just having our weekly Bonner Mondays that we would have as a group with other first years who were undergoing the same situation, who never physically went to the Y and never had those meetings in person, was really helpful. And there was some solace in it and some camaraderie that I know that I could look forward to every Monday night, which was really nice. So I'm very grateful for that. And just the conversations we would have holistically as a group, and then also just among the first years when we would go into breakout sessions, was also really helpful in connecting and feeling more of a part of UNC and of the Y that I don't think I would have felt without those Bonner Mondays. And then in terms of development committee or DevCo, I sort of looked into it on a whim and applied on a whim, not knowing a ton about the operations, but I'm so glad that I did. And DevCo has also been really helpful in feeling more like I have a tangible connection to the school and to the Y, and a lot of the projects that we've done with empowerment and other and like the workshops and everything else has been really helpful in feeling like there's something tangible that we're doing that's still working even with the pandemic, which is really nice. And everyone is so viscerally passionate about what they're doing, so it makes it really nice to be in a group with such hardworking, scrupulous people. So yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot, just not even in context with the pandemic, but from working in the Y in two different departments. And I've been explained the organization of the Y still, and it's still a little confusing to me, but working in those two different areas in Bonner and in DevCo has been great for perspective and just learning about the different arms of the Y and how it's been so impactful to so many different people. And so that is why I'm very, very grateful for my first year in the Y, despite the virtual circumstances. Everyone's been great in trying to make it as tangible as possible, is what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joey. And now I'm really excited to introduce the newly elected co-presidents, Montia Daniels and Patrice McCloin. These two are the first in history to be the first Black female co-presidents elected in history at the Campus Y. And I can't think of two better people to lead the Y going forward. So I'm excited to have them share about their platform and what they envision for the Y going forward.
Hey y'all, my name is Montia Daniels. Thank you, Shiv, for introducing us. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a women's and gender studies and media and journalism double major, and I'm the co-president with my amazing co-president, Patrice. And a little bit about our platform is that we're really focused on sustainability in our platform. We really want the Y to be a place that can continue on for as long as possible. And we also want the Y to be a place where people can come and feel community with. I know that's been a lot different when the pandemic is happening, but we still want the Y to be a place, and our amazing committees and also our amazing executive board has done a lot to make it sure that we are all still in community together. So I'll let Patrice introduce himself.
Thanks for that, and thanks for inviting us to this ship. As Montia said, my name is Patrice McGloin. I'm a sophomore here at UNC. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm double majoring in public policy and psychology with a minor in Chinese. And as Montia highlighted, one thing that's been really incredible and really salient during this time frame is just how much effort and work goes into, showing up day to day for social justice, showing up for your community members, and showing up for each other. And I think that strain, as everyone has talked about, has really been emphasized by the pandemic. And so one thing that we really plan for this next year is to make it easier to seek help, easier to be vulnerable, to honor that emotional labor that goes into this work, especially when we have to shift and find new ways to do it. And part of that, like Montia said, was being sustainable both in how we manage our funding, how we manage our resources, and also more so just how we ensure that people like Joey and Joshua and Abby all feel supported in the work that they're doing, and that they know that they're part of something broader than just their individual spaces. One of the beauties of the Y, as we all know, is that it's able to house all kinds of different things going on at once, whether that be Bonner or committees or Global Gap Year. And all of those experiences are unique. But I think one thing that Montia and I want to prioritize going forward is really finding that Y identity and connecting it all together, because there's a power in this community. There's a power in the work that we do, and we want to uplift that in the ways that we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrice and Montia. And I hope you all, got a good taste of how our student leaders are working really hard during COVID-19 and, the different perspectives and experiences in the Y. And we're really glad that they were all able to join us. So now Anisha and I are going to talk a little bit about how you all can help in this process and how funding can help us in the future, and how it's already helped us and how it can benefit us going forward. So the first thing that is really important in the Y are committee-wide projects in the Y and beyond. So as you know, there are 31 different service committees in the Y. And not only that, the Y also supports organizations that are outside of the campus Y as well. And we're really committed to making sure that social justice initiatives across campus are fulfilled and that students feel like they are able to engage in activism. So some examples of some committee-wide projects: CJA has a volunteer initiative called the Durham Youth Home Initiative, which we have funded in the past. They've been able to engage in the local community through this. And an example of something outside of the Campus Y, an organization called Edible Campus has a cookbook that we funded in which it has sustainable food recipes for refugees and immigrants in the community. So these two are just examples of projects that would help with more funding and similar initiatives across campus. In addition, as you know, we have other programs in the Y that would benefit from funding. You heard from Abby, Joshua, and Joey, who are all Bonner leaders. Funding would help with the Bonner Leadership Program and sustaining that in long term. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Anisha to explain some other initiatives that would help.
Yeah, so you guys have also heard about the Global Gap Year Fellowship, but essentially it would allow students to take a gap year and really go and explore their passions and help others outside of Chapel Hill and UNC. And then also the executive board project. So Shiv and I touched on a few on what this past year's executive board did due to COVID-19, but just post-pandemic, funding can really help the Campus Y bring the community back together and work on other initiatives as well.
Awesome. So I think now we're actually going to talk about how to stay engaged with the Campus Y. And this is really going to help with those who are joining today's call and wondering, what can I do after this call to support some of these initiatives? So if you aren't already, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter. You can stay updated on social justice and innovation efforts, events, internships, and more. And that will come to your inbox every Monday. So if you aren't already, we really recommend you to subscribe to that so you can stay up to date with Campus Y initiatives. And like we mentioned before, funding is really, really important to sustain the initiatives that are within the Campus Y. So if you're willing, we would love for any of you to make a gift to the Campus Y. Again, these are some of the things that your gift would support: Campus Y committees, Bonner leaders, Cube, which is our social entrepreneurship and innovation incubator that supports student startups that have to do with student innovation. And then again, our Global Gap Year Fellows. So we can drop some of these in the chat afterwards, and you will also get an email about this from Erin as well after the call. But we just wanted to touch on some ways you can stay engaged with the Campus Y going forward. And with that, we're actually going to go ahead and move into a Q&A session. Thankfully, because there's not a large number of attendees today, we can have a little bit more of an intimate Q&A session. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. And a few of you, when you RSVP'd, had actually already asked a couple of questions. So I will go ahead and drop those questions in the chat, and we'll open it up to the students that are on this call to answer a couple of these questions. And if any staff members as well want to answer these questions, that would be great. But thank you again for engaging, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. So I went ahead and dropped the first question that someone had asked, which is, what role has the Campus Y played in racial justice efforts at Carolina over the past couple of years? And this was submitted to us through the RSVP form. So if any students want to answer it based on their experiences, or if any staff members also want to touch on this, that would be great.
I think that the Campus Y is really, if you know about the Campus Y, you know that it's the hub for social justice on campus. And that includes racial justice efforts. I remember when I was a freshman in 2018. So when I came on campus, that's when the Silent Sam whole thing was happening. I remember the first weekend on campus, that was when white supremacists marched and with guns on campus. It was just really scary. And I was really thankful that I had campus, like the Campus Y, those first few weeks I was on campus, because there was a lot of anxiety around it, like everyone was kind of a little scared, and we just didn't feel really safe on campus. And the Campus Y was like really just supportive. Everyone was looking out for each other. I vaguely remember that the university wasn't alerting us that white supremacists were on campus, and I think it was campus-wide students that set up like an alert system with text or email on Twitter, something like that, just to like tweet out or like let all the students know, it's not really safe right now. Like, stay away from McCorkle Place because white supremacists are up there, stuff like that. And that was also those first few weeks I went to one of the marches with Silent Sam. That was the first march I ever went to. And it was after a Bonner meeting. And I went with my very close friend who's also in Bonner. And it was just like like I said, the first march I've ever been to. And it was scary. I was scared because like I didn't know what's gonna happen. There was a really big police presence on campus, but it was also like just really monumental, I guess. Like I felt really heard, like with all the other students around me, everybody else participating in the march. So that was a big moment. And I always link that type of stuff to the Campus Y.
And to expand on that a little bit, I know since Silent Sam came down each year, the Campus Y is engaged in Silent Sam reeducation because it's easy with the size of this university and just how much is going on for things to be lost in institutional memory. And so that's one thing that we've been really intentional about is making sure that the legacy of both that statue, the activism around it, and how the university reacted to those activists is, understood concretely. And that was mentioned earlier in the presentation by what the co-directors of outreach did. We've also been participating in sort of coalition building on campus, and that's one thing that Montia and I hope to expand. One thing that was developed in response to all of the situations that students were finding themselves in this year was the Racial Equity Coalition. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the Commission for Racial Equity, which is sort of a broader body on campus. And so that's one thing that we hope to, increase our participation in. I also know that individual committees are doing a lot of racial equity work. For example, I was formerly a co-chair of a committee called Criminal Justice Action and Awareness, which Shiv mentioned briefly. And the entire mission of that organization is to address the criminal justice system and the ways that racist institutions have played into that. And so I know on a committee level, there's a lot of individual work going on to make sure that community members feel heard, that we're combating the sort of institutional racism that has led to the systemic issues that we're trying to address. So I know education and conversation is constant around those issues for the Y, and something that Monty and I only hope to expand as part of our tenure.
And to add a little more to what Patrice was saying, like a part of our platform is anti-racism and racial equity. So this year we aim to really create a space that feels safe for Black and Brown students and also make a space that feels safe for all students. And we want racial equity to be the center of our platform because it's a center of a lot of the activism that happens on campus. Over the summer, over this school year, like the pandemic has brought out a lot of the disparities that have been going on in the pandemic and the crisis that we have been having as a nation. And we want to make sure that we're centering the experiences of our students of color in order to make sure that we are having the advocacy, the activism, and things that we desire for this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that question. I can go ahead and go into the second question and I'll drop it in the chat as well. But the question is, what have you learned about yourself over the last year?
I hope the person who asked this doesn't mind me expanding that to what I've learned about myself and what I've learned about this community, because I think those two things are very intertwined. Personally, I've learned what my limits are in a way that I was not expecting. I learned what it means to have to really assert boundaries in work and life. But I think more importantly, I've learned that this community is incredibly resilient. I was not prepared for the outpouring of love and connection and understanding that has come from the Campus Y over these past couple of months. It is both the most sympathetic and encouraging space that I operate in on campus and has continued to be that way during the pandemic. If anything, I think these connections in this space are what keeps me going day to day. And I know that sounds like hyperbole to some of you, but it is a reality. There's a passion here and in its students and the way that this community comes together. And I'm constantly in awe of it. So even on my worst days, I know I can turn to the community and turn to its people for support. And I know that's been true for a lot of my peers as well. So if anything, I've learned how much this community means to me and how much it can give to both this campus, the larger Orange County, Carborough space, and really to each other. And I'm extremely thankful for that, especially in such a hard year.
I also wanted to talk about this a little bit. I wanted to start off with like more so talking about like the past 3 years, like since I've been at UNC and involved with the Bonner program. I know y'all can hear it in my voice a little bit. I hate public speaking, like I hate it. You can hear my voice shaking, I'm sure, but if y'all knew me when I was like a freshman coming in or in high school, I was just like super anxious all the time. I would not call myself a leader at all. Um, and I think my role at Bonner's, like being placed where I was, the Monday night meetings, all that has like made me much more comfortable. Well, not comfortable, made me much more able to speak publicly, able to like take a leadership role. It's kind of like my role at VFY. Like I said earlier, I run a girls group program. And since my sophomore year, I've like started to be like the coordinator of that program. Um, and that part of it, like um the woman who had like ran the program before me, she left when I was a sophomore, and I was the only other one there at the organization with like experience running, like doing the program. And so um I kind of just had to like figure it out by myself. It was really hard, but it like really forced me to like find stuff out about myself, like stuff I just didn't think I was capable of doing. And that wouldn't have happened if like I wasn't a Bonner, if like our Monday night meetings weren't like so. I know like my other Bonners, I don't speak a lot in Monday night meetings, but it's more than I used to when I was a freshman. So I think just having this role and like stuff like that has like forced me to like be a little bit more comfortable with myself and my abilities, and just like get over this sense of like imposter syndrome I can have sometimes, and stuff like that. So I have definitely learned a lot about myself over the past 3 years, but in the last year or so, um, that's made me learn even more about like my abilities and like the people who support me. Because I definitely couldn't have like kept girls group going over the past year like online if I didn't have like a really good support system with Bonners and with my coworkers at VFY and stuff like that. So yeah, this past year has been tough, but very worth it.
I can also jump in a little bit with this question. Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine. I've been on DevCo for the past 2 years. Didn't get a chance. Wasn't in the presentation earlier, but I think one thing that I would think that probably happened to most people over this pandemic and over quarantine is just like a lot of reflection, a lot of self-reflection about what motivates you, like what are you passionate about. I've always enjoyed school. I think if you're at Carolina, you've probably always been a pretty strong student. But I think over this past year, I really realized that it's not necessarily like the academic portion of Carolina that really speaks to me and makes me want to engage in my classes every day, engage in the community every day, but it is the people that you're surrounded with, and the passion of other people is kind of what pushes me. Like when I being in Campus Y, seeing all these people who care so much about the missions that they're involved in, that's what motivates me, that makes me want to go to a meeting on Zoom at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night when I could be doing something else. Like it's hard to keep going in the pandemic. It's hard to push yourself to continue working for your classes, to continue working for your organizations, but the mission of the Campus Y, the passion of the people around me, that's what motivates me. And I think that having that time to self-reflect is going to be something I carry with me forward when I'm looking into careers post-college and looking into community engagements after. And I think that's probably a sentiment that many people, many students can share.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. I'll go. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I'll say that's like Jasmine said, feeding off that passion other people have at Campus Y is definitely something that helps you stay motivated. I would say for me, it was I thought I was like more of a free form person, and I just like did things on a whim. But I was like, nah, like, it's most of the time it's like a schedule, and I noticed that I didn't have a schedule. Like I just woke up and I was like, all right, what am I gonna do today? But I know, like, since it was we were more by ourselves, you had to plan things more and do things with intention. So I say that was the main thing that I had learned, because I would say, yeah, this is my first semester actually as a public policy and a political science major. So I would say that past year I learned that I didn't want to be doing chemistry for 3 hours, and just in front of the computer. I like the social interaction more with people and learning about different people's cultures and what their experiences are, because it gives you like a broader a broader perspective on, I guess, how everyone fits in the world. And it taught me that even though like the world is so big, you can see how people can get isolated or feel like they don't have anybody. Because I think even though you could be close in proximity, mentally you may be very different, or how you feel on the inside can make you feel very different from people. So even though Carolina is a big campus and a lot of people had to go home and some people had to stay, it was the fact that, we couldn't really share those experiences with each other that made us feel so distant. So through online learning and through those meetings with the campus wide, I was still able to get that experience of, talking with people. And I would say that was very integral, because I think besides that, I would say like playing basketball was like the only other time besides, working school that I, hung out with people a lot. So the campus wide was definitely, integral, and like me finding, different people and different avenues to explore.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. I think that just speaks to how amazing the students in the Y are, and what makes this community so special. And we really appreciate everyone who submitted questions when you RSVP'd. I think now we're actually going to transition and open it up to anyone that wants to ask questions. I know there's a few alumni here, and feel free to introduce yourself as well. Feel free to ask any questions you want, or any comments. We would love to have you speak. I don't think we can hear you, Greg. I know you're unmuted.
This is Greg. Sorry, I appeared twice. It's just my camera on my computer doesn't work. But rather than seeing me smile constantly in that static photo, I'm also here live. But mostly just a comment. And my hat is off to all of you. Y'all are so articulate, and I appreciate you getting up and talking about your experience and your passions and your commitments, and Abby and where she's come from and being able to speak in front of people. But each of you spoke so well, and it's it's so heartening to me both to see it at the Campus Y and to see it at Chapel Hill and to see it at your age level. I'm 40 years away from UNC, or a little bit more than 40 years away, but the Campus Y was my hangout, and it went from being my hangout to being my passion. And so it's wonderful to see what it is to you folks. So congratulations and keep it up.
Could we ask questions to like other people? Because I did have a question for Greg Michaels. I'll say, as far as like you being a student at UNC 40 years ago and now, I guess how have you seen like the campus wide change, and I guess keep up with the times, or like adjust and stuff?
Well, I think as important as racial justice was then, it's paramount now. It's an extraordinary emphasis I see now. It was important then. I think we were more diverse in a way at that time. I did hunger action work, hunger action committee, international development. That's my interest and was my interest. I worked with Big Brother, Big Sister, so I did things that got me out in the community as well as on campus. I think what's the same that's very important is how y'all talked about the Campus Y being a focal point for social activism, and I think it was that way. It has always been that way, both with the staff, with the students, and the nature of leadership that shows up and gets raised and developed at the Campus Y. That's my biggest impression. Oh, the other thing is I'm just really I've liked what I've heard about the Bonner program. Really interesting to hear about that. In a previous event, I think I heard about Cube and found that really interesting. But it's that it's that the ability to grow new things there and to respond and to reach out and to find the resources. That's always important. I know that's important for y'all, is finding the resources to do what you do. A lot starts with the energy and thinking and support from the university through the staffing. So that's how I see it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome, Josh.
I'm Joe Shedd. I have 10 years on Greg. I'm 50 years out from being. I was Y president in 1970. I I think your question and Greg's response is right on target. It's remarkable in some ways how similar the overall profile of the Y is, both the commitment to social justice, the importance of the community that you've built among yourselves, and your nimbleness, the way in which you have been able to find ways of responding quickly to immediate needs, but constantly holding on to that central thread of commitment to justice. You know, when I was president, we were dealing with the Vietnam War. We were dealing with gender equity. We were dealing with environmental justice. We were dealing with equity for Black cafeteria workers on campus. So there were real specific things that were immediate to our circumstance, but all of them had the same kind of general commitment to the community and to justice that you all are demonstrating now, and it's really reassuring. Thanks.
Well, if there are not any other questions, I think we can go ahead and wrap things up. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us. I know that this is like kind of an odd hour to do something like this in the middle of the day, but we really appreciate the time you took to come and hear from all of our students, and all of this information that you heard will be sent out by our communications officer, Erin. So thank you again. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to stick around or reach out to anyone in the Y.
Can I just say I'm so thankful for you all. So proud to be a part of this space and to be able to offer any support that I can give to you all. I think everyone has seen and continues to see why we as staff show up every day, just to be around you all and inspired is really truly a gift. And so I'm really glad to hear from other folks' experiences that the Y was a space for them in a similar way that it is for you all. And I know I speak for everyone just to say thank you for sharing some of your experiences. And we're really excited to see, you know, I know there's a long road ahead and a lot of work to do, but, you know, this community is really amazing. So I hope everyone, I know everyone can see that just from being here with you all for a few moments of the day, but appreciate you and am so thankful for your leadership and your presence today. Thanks.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Good luck, everybody.